Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Selectmen's meeting of August 16th, 2021. I'm going to read just an announcement. I should read more often, but I'm going to read it again before we get started. You may call in for public comment at 603-382-5200, extension 290. If you would like to make a comment or ask a question by email, please email Beth at bhosek@plaistow.com. Questions and comments received by 3 p.m. the day of the meeting will be read at the meeting. You may watch the meeting on cable TV, channel 17, or live stream the meeting at Vimeo. Am I saying that right? Vimeo, I'm sorry, .com/Plaistow or facebook.com/PlaistowAccess. Bill, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please? I'm sorry, roll call.
Select Chair, Mr. Britton.
Here.
Select Vice Chair, Mr. Blinn.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. Talion.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. DeRoche.
Here.
Selectman, Mr. Coy.
Here.
And we have our town manager, Mr. Colby, here.
Roll.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We have the minutes from August 2nd.
Make a motion, we approve the August 2nd, 2021 Board of Selectmen minutes.
Greg made a motion. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Jay made a second. Any comments, questions, or anything else? If not, I'll take a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 5-0-0.
Oh, I abstained.
I'm sorry.
I wasn't here.
Okay. I'm sorry, I should have asked you that. 4-0-0-1. I automatically think you're always here. First item on the agenda is trash and recycling contract discussion.
Public comment, right?
D?
Do you want to
Public
do
comment.
public comment first?
Well, I'm sorry, you're right. Any public comment? Guess not. D, you're up.
I didn't want to step on anybody's toes.
Are we online?
No, there's something
Are we
wrong with the
online?
machine.
Something is- Oh, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Dee Voss. I'm the Special Project Coordinator for the town. You should have a copy of a little summary that I did regarding, from a pre-proposal meeting that we had regarding the trash contract.
We do?
There were 5 vendors present, and this was their opportunity to ask questions about the RFP or get requests for additional information regarding the RFP, and only those who attended this meeting are eligible to submit a proposal for under the RFP. So the biggest questions that they had that I needed the board to answer, some of it was just general information, tonnage information and routes and stuff like that, but they had a couple of questions. First question that they had that seemed the biggest stickler was whether or not the board would see fit to move the contract date out a year. I put together some pros and cons on this.
Saw that.
My thoughts on this are moving it out a year is kicking the can down the road another year.
I agree.
Those that are able to handle it will submit a proposal. It's a 5-year contract. It's a good contract. And if they want it, they'll put a proposal in.
Right.
And that's kind of how I'm looking at it. Plus, we don't have the issue of how do we store 6,300 carts for a year,
Right.
plus pay a contract for manual for another year. And if we did store the carts for a year, we'd have to pay somebody to come back and assemble them and distribute them at that time. So I think it's a pay me now, pay me later kind of situation. And I think it would be good for the town to just have this issue resolved.
If I could, where are we with the carts?
We're one email away. We had a little bit of language difference with the non-appropriation clause. It was reviewed by Sumner, DRA, Primex. We submitted some language back that we think is going to be acceptable to them. I'm just waiting for the confirmation email.
Jay and I talked about the carts. The concern is that the only concern I see, from my standpoint anyways, and everybody else can chime in, is the carts weren't ordered when we were going to order them. Are we going to get them here? Will they get here still on time?
They have not told me that there's any problem with the delivery date.
Okay,
This is the leasing company, not the manufacturing company.
right.
So they have not told me that, you know, unless you get this signed by X date, we're not going to be able to make our delivery date. None of that has come my way.
Okay, that'd still be a concern of mine, because it's one thing for the leasing company, but it's another thing for the manufacturer.
I had a concern on the other end that if we start playing, you know, the question game, can you hold this off a year? They're going to say, you know what, you're already past your 30 days that you needed to sign
Yeah.
for this. But we did sign a commitment letter with them to take the carts. It's how we work out the financing.
Okay.
So the commitment letter for the carts ordered has been done.
Okay.
This is just working out the financing part.
Gentlemen, questions or comments, or?
That's great news. I was really concerned. I was concerned that we would have to wait 6 months or 12 months. That's a long time.
It is.
It's a long,
It is.
long time.
I was very pleased, not only at the number of people that showed up for the pre-proposal, but who they were.
Yeah.
These are the heavy hitters in the industry.
Right.
And so I was very, very pleased about that.
Can I ask whether or not you would have any feeling about, of the 5, that we would get 3 proposals, 4 proposals, 5?
I'm hoping 5.
Okay,
I'm the optimist in the room sometimes, I
Okay.
guess. But the participation in the pre-proposal meeting was very active.
okay,
So they're interested in it.
good.
So
Good,
Thank you.
it's a good contract. It's a 5-year contract. That's
that is good,
a good contract.
yeah. Jay?
Yeah, I was very happy to see that we have at least 5 people that were there committed. Hopefully, it's going to be competitive, and we can try to work through this. I'm in agreement. I don't want to kick the can down the road any further. This needs to be done. It's been going on too long. So I'm in favor of just moving forward, not extending that date, so.
I agree with you.
Anybody else? That being said, you want to take a vote? Somebody want to make a motion to move this thing forward?
I just need the motion to be that we're going to keep the contract start date as January 1 of 2022.
Okay.
So moved.
I'll second.
Greg? Jay, you second it?
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 500. You got it, kid.
And the other question that we had from the vendors was the clause that's in there about the recycling and whether or not we want to assume the risk and share in the profit, or just keep it that you figure it out, take care of it yourself. The vendors were pushing back and saying, well, you guys should, you know, it's going to be a little more expensive, kind of, sort of, if you guys assume some of the risk with us and you know, and then we share in the profit. My take on this is I'd rather see it stable. We
Yeah.
can budget for it that way. I really don't see, unless there's some big changes in the technology for recycling, I don't see recycling rebounding in that 5-year contract.
No.
So, or at least not enough to make a difference for budgeting purposes.
Right.
So it would be my recommendation, based on what I've researched on this, that we keep it, the clause as is.
Gentlemen, you feel the same way?
Yeah, I do.
There you go.
So, can I ask a last question about the extra carts?
We put a
I don't want to
question,
rate this as a harsh reality,
Right.
but maybe it is a harsh reality, is that we don't want to have the regular taxpayers paying for individual families that want two
What I
carts.
did was I put a question back on the proposal sheet that they have to fill out.
Yeah.
Whether or not they would be willing, as the vendor, to deal directly with those who needed additional carts, including supplying the cart and whatever cost would be associated with pickup and disposal.
Okay,
So that question's on the response they have to give to the RFP.
good, thank you.
Yep. Very good.
Thanks, Steve.
All righty,
Great
thank
job.
you.
That's good. That one's moving.
Yeah.
Next up, Old Home Day update. Hello.
Haley.
Good.
Good.
So, as most of you know, we have canceled Old Home Day.
Can you just give your name and address to Beth?
Hi, Beth. Haley Bush, One Hill Spring Road. And then you can introduce yourself.
Keith Zabolis, 8 Elm Street.
Sorry, Keith, what was the last name?
Zabolis, Z-I-B-O-L-I-S.
I'm sorry, Haley, go ahead.
So, as most all of you probably know, we did cancel Old Home Day this year. I received a call from you and Greg and Beth late last week in regards to some concerns the department heads had
Yes.
with some of the things that we were still planning with. But I think the ultimate reason that we all agreed on was an insurance problem, that because we raised our own funds and the funds didn't come from the town directly, that this wasn't any longer an Old Home Day from the town. It was a private event. So
Well,
I don't know if you want to-
It was that, obviously, our insurance Primex had a problem with it.
because of why, though?
Because you're using our property, the town's property, and if something was to happen, they didn't want to be on the hook for something that wasn't sanctioned by the town, okay? So the other items that were in there were, the restrooms seemed to be a problem at the time. We talked to the building inspector, and he said that we were going to need probably 10 units out there. That seemed to be a long shot to try to find 10.
I've secured porta potties. So when we talked on the phone, I said I was working on it. I was back and forth with Pete's Sewer Service, and Friday an invoice came through for porta potties.
Okay. Well,
So
we didn't
that's
know
out of
that
the
at
way.
time. Yeah.
Right.
The paid officers, I shouldn't say the paid officers. The fire department was concerned on Collis Way about cars parking on both sides and having a clear access if they needed to get a ladder truck down in there or anything else to be able to do that. That was a real concern for the fire department, having that access. They needed to go down there and possibly have to turn around. If we had the number of people that you're saying that were going to come, it would certainly, there's 65 spots there to park. And we were estimating, 500 to 700 people was the last number I had heard.
I just know, like, I've been down there, like, my kid did the Healthy Running Series, and they utilize both ways, because on the right side of the road, you don't even have to be on the road. You can park on the other side of the road. And actually, I met with Chief Knutson less than 2 weeks ago, and this was never brought up with me. I bet with Derek Travers, too, and they never brought up parking with me. So
Okay.
you can understand how I'm, like, kind of blindsided, because all these things that could have been worked out in the beginning, it's like coming to a head now when I've met with the fire department in the process of meeting with the police department, and none of this was a concern.
Yeah, I
So you
mean,
can, like, understand the frustration that
well, I understand the frustration because there was a lot of work put into it.
is a lot of work, that a lot of
I
people.
mean, you met with the board on April 12th, I think it was. I have it here. I think it was April 12th. And at that point, the details were all going to be worked out in about 45 days. Well, here we are, almost 5 months later, and we're just finishing up working out the details. I think it probably could have worked if we could have gotten all of that together beforehand. But I understand the challenge you had,
Right.
trying to get money to do things and put things together. It's were you able to get something from the school, by the way, for the fireworks at that point?
When I talked to you,
Yeah.
the form, I was going to send it back. That's where it
Okay.
stopped, because it was like,
Okay.
Can I
they
ask
wanted like a,
Can I ask a question?
Sure, go ahead.
Did anyone look into what it would cost for a one-day insurance coverage?
no, but I've had actually people reach out to me saying they would cover that. But like, not to throw you under the bus, but when we were talking, you said that there was no way around our situation. Like,
Well,
that's what you said. And I thought that included, like, if we went and did something,
Well, you could have gotten a one-day, but we would have had to have it brought back here and had counsel look at it, our insurance company look at it, because, you know, what do you get? $1 million, $20 million? I mean, you burn a school down, it's $40 million.
right?
You know,
No, I understand.
that's a big deal.
I just wish we knew earlier. And I guess it's partially my fault, but
You know
we've
something?
been raising money since like
Don't even look at
January,
it that
so.
way, Haley. Is part of, you're partially, everybody played a hand in this,
Yeah.
okay?
We all wanted you to succeed.
Yeah.
We all wanted you to succeed.
We did, and it was a case that, you know, maybe we should all gotten involved more in this process. Unfortunately, we didn't. Hindsight's 20/20. To me, at this point, it's now looking forward to 2022, having Old Home Day back and full swing and things running good. And my heart goes out to you because I know you did put your heart and soul into it. You do, you know. So it's, it is what it is right now.
Just out of curiosity, because I don't know the whole logistics of everything, but if the Old Home Day Committee had given the money raised to the town to at least cover the insurance for the fireworks, would that have been okay with the insurance company's end? If where the check comes from is the big problem,
It's not where the check comes from, it's how much you're going to spend for, I'm going to say, on an event like that, especially a fireworks event where it could be a catastrophic event, okay? How much you're going to spend for a $20 million policy for a day? Who knows what that's going to cost?
Yeah.
You know, it might have blown that budget completely out of the water.
Yeah.
You know, again, it's speculation at this point. You know, and I feel terrible about it. I mean, everybody on this board gave to the fireworks to try to make it happen. We wanted it to happen.
Right.
You know.
does the normal yearly budget that the Old Home Day Committee gets, does that also cover insurance, or?
Well, then it's money that's voted by the town, and it becomes the
town
town's
event.
insurance that covers us,
Yeah.
okay? So, I wish we all had better news on this one, but now it's just plug forward and have a hell of a one next year.
Okay.
Any comments, questions, gentlemen?
If, say Haley did find out what it would cost for that insurance, what the school would ask for, is there any way we could at least salvage or try to the fireworks? You know what I'm saying? I don't know what that would cost, if there's a way we could find that out.
Well, Mike, again, we're against the clock. You're, what, less than 2 weeks away?
Yeah. But even if you push the fireworks back a few weeks if you had to.
The
But just for
fireworks
some-
vendor doesn't know that we're canceled yet. I haven't said a word to anybody until after tonight.
You could go over to Insurance Solutions, and they could
Right,
give you
and they've
a
donated to Old Home
ballpark.
Day.
The Knights of Columbus, I think we pay around $400 for liability for all of our events. So that's why I was concerned that this probably was not as big an issue, and we definitely would need to get an estimate very, very soon, like tomorrow,
Right.
get an estimate,
And you
and
wanna
see
get-
whether or not it's reasonable to be able to continue it.
Right.
Because I'd at least like to try to salvage something, I think we all would, right, if it's possible.
Yeah.
I think what you need to do is go to the school and ask them what they require for insurance policy, okay? It's, if you're planning on having it shot so people will see it from the school facility, you need to ask them what they're looking for.
Right.
It doesn't matter what we're looking for, it's up to them.
And then the one other question I would have, because I know there were several bands, right? Would we be able to at least have bands play out there? Because that would just be, I'm asking, just,
I think that you're just convoluting it at
no,
that
I'm
point.
just trying, I'm trying to see.
I mean, I just think you're convoluting it because of, I'm going with what all the departments had. There wasn't a department head that didn't feel bad it wasn't happening, but couldn't justify it. That's all, you know. Yes, Jay?
As far as the fireworks and using the school, is that gonna be an issue with the school allowing us to have it there?
To have the fireworks there?
Yeah.
So, like I said, basically, when we decided to cancel Old Home Day, they were happening. Like, they were like, here's our usage form, it's open, and they were just
So
waiting
you
on me to
hadn't-
send it back.
So
but
that
no,
wasn't in yet, right? The usage?
The usage form wasn't in, but they were aware we wanted that date, that time, and that the fire department was okay with it. I did send out an email to, I think, the actual whole school board to
So
let
I
them know.
guess to Darrell's point about finding out what the school would need for coverage, we could find that out and maybe try submitting the application and see if maybe we could pull it off, you know?
So the only thing I'm worried about today is, today originally was supposed to approve all our donations to have Old Home Day. This was what I was here for, and now we're here kind of to approve to cancel it. So as far as paying for the fireworks, how does that work? Will we approve all these donations to actually pay for the fireworks? Because there's not another selectman meeting before that date unless we move the fireworks, like you said.
Well, you can get back to Greg, and Greg can get back to us without any problem, even though there's not a selectmen's meeting. If you get back to us tomorrow.
That
I'm
Greg?
sorry. Greg Colby.
That Greg?
That Greg.
Gotcha. Okay.
Okay?
But I guess that's really all dependent on if the school would even allow that, too.
Yeah. I'd love to see that, just something.
Yeah, anything, I
Something.
think the town would at
I feel
least like
terrible,
to-
like my heart is absolutely shattered. I feel terrible.
So, the good thing with the
nobody's
fireworks, a
happy
lot
about
you
it.
can see from your house.
Yeah.
Part- a lot of big
I just
part
know,
of town.
like, you've been to committee meetings, how hard everyone works. It's just sad. But, okay.
Okay?
And that
I'll
would
work
be
on
the-
it.
The one thing, no, go ahead, Jay.
Go ahead, Jay.
I just have one more comment about the committee themselves. I just want to say thank you for all the hard work you guys put in.
Yes.
You know, you raised $7,500. That's impressive. You know, that's more than other fundraisers have gone for Old Home Day in the past, and that's great. I know you guys are all very passionate about Old Home Day, and, you know, I've been on the committee as a liaison for the road race and, you know what the work is like putting this day on. It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
And in the short time that you had, you guys did a great job doing that. And I guess I would say to the public out there that if you guys are passionate about Old Home Day, you know, the more hands make
Definitely.
easy work. You know, if people want to help, you know, make it great next year and reach out to this board, reach out to Haley, you know, get involved, and we'll make it a great weekend or a day next year. So,
I'd love to see a whole weekend. Those were
Right.
awesome.
And
The whole weekend was so
The
fun.
follow-up to that is, when would you start planning for next year, so you have a date so everybody can get on board early?
So I send an early email out, like right before Christmas.
Yeah.
Just say, happy holidays, get ready, it's coming. And then we meet the second week of January, and it's twice a month, all the way till June.
But if we can start blasting social media
Yeah, for
and
sure.
everything just there, because let's get everybody involved, because it seems like everybody wants it, so
Right.
let's get all hands on deck and really make it a big one next year.
And I do want to say the road race is still happening. The Lions Club are still doing their road race on the 28th, so that's not canceled. He worked that out with the fire, Bob Fairhurst is amazing. He worked that out with the police department and the
Yes.
highway department, so that's not canceled. And also the YMCA is holding their own kind of fair at the YMCA, so those are still happening.
What are you doing for your vendors that have, if it doesn't happen, which it sounds like that part won't, what
So-
are you doing for them?
So when we were planning 2019, 2019 was our last Old Home Day. So 2020, and the pandemic hit, people had already signed up as vendors. So we, at the time, I worked with Jim Peck and my mother, who also does the vendors, and we said, okay, they can either refund their vendor fee, or we could just move it to 2021. And we're offering that same option this year. So Jim's
So
doing
there's
that.
some people that already have 2 years' worth of vendors' fees that,
Well, they have 1 year. So they paid for 2020, it got canceled. So they're like, hey, I want to apply my 2020 to
Oh, okay.
2021. And now if they would like, they can say, you know what, I'll wait. And we have that, Jim's very organized. It's all on a spreadsheet. So we
Okay.
know exactly who was paid. To be honest, I'm actually unsure if he's returned any vendor fees yet. I don't know if you've done any sponsor fees yet.
I have a note from him that he
Okay.
wanted me to read tonight, so
Okay.
it's basically, the vendors can get a full refund if they wish, or they can elect to carry it over to Old Home Day 2022, or they can donate to the Historical Society. So an email is gonna be sent out to all the vendors, with those options. So if anyone has any questions, they can reach Jim Peck. It's at the Plaistow Historical Society. It's historical@yahoo.com. And just to note, you know, the last couple of years, they've had, you know, they get that as revenue to help do the things they do with the Historical Society, and you know, this year, again, they're not getting those funds. They collected somewhere along the lines of $1,800 this year, so, if people want a refund, they'll be notified very soon, so.
Okay.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Haley.
Next up, the new assessing values.
Process is going along with the assessors, but one of the final steps is they need to know the direction of the board and how they want to handle the hearings. Given that there has been, you know, a recent uptick in COVID and the like, in your packets, there's updated procedures, but it talks about item 10 and 11. When new proposed values are ready, letters will be sent to invite each property owner with a new value to come and review the values. Letters go to any of those that have a change of 5%, and it allows the owners at least 10 days' notice before the hearing period is. Now, according to our assessor, we can do individual hearings here at Town Hall. Obviously, it will cause, you know, traffic here at the Town Hall. They can do phone hearings, or we can just do notifications and handle it through the abatement process as a third option. So they just need to know the direction that the board wants to do. They are willing to do whatever the board wants, whether it's in person, whether it's telephone, or no hearings at all.
Do we have a feeling for how many people we're talking?
I
Mary
don't,
Beth could tell us.
Mary
if we asked
Beth
that
could,
question.
but knowing, you know, a 5% uptick in value, given the way the market is,
Yep.
I have a feeling it's gonna be a lot.
Okay.
That could request a hearing. I have a feeling the residential values will go up. You know,
Yeah.
based on Mary Beth's, providing the information, you know, to the board, what was it, a month ago?
Well, that's, I understand that, and the problem is going to be with that is that if 90% of the people in town have an uptick of, let's say, 5%, you're gonna have a lot of people coming here to,
If they request it.
If they
Now,
request it.
I mean,
Yeah.
you know, people that may understand, you know, with the real estate market and the like.
Right.
That there is going to be an increase in the value, they may, you know, take a look at it and say, no, we're good, you know, based on other sales of properties down the street, so to speak. And
Yep.
they may feel that they're okay and not. So,
yeah.
My suggestion would be to leave all three options on the table for people to choose from.
That's a good way.
If they're comfortable with a phone call or an in-person meeting, I know it's gonna add more traffic here, but could there be a potential to utilize the library, and not go through the front of the library, but at least, you know, have those side rooms available? I don't know if it's something we can coordinate with the library potentially, the highway garage. We could have, you know, just a thought, if you think too much traffic in here, or just a couple options to throw out there.
And I mean, you know, you may have taxpayers that may not feel comfortable coming in either, so, I
Right.
mean, say, the choice would be in person with an option of those that may not feel comfortable for telephone.
How many people we have available to review those?
That's a Mary Beth question, I'm not sure. I know there's 2 or 3 that are here on a regular basis, so.
Okay.
I would imagine that they would have 2 or 3 anyways.
Okay.
I'm guessing Mary Beth has Zoom or GoToMeeting capabilities, that maybe that's an option as well, if people were to ask, you know, I'd like a meeting, but I don't want to come in, you know, they could offer up a Zoom call or something. That way they could share the information on a screen for people that are capable of doing that.
Yeah.
I just don't know what their capabilities are at this point. I'm assuming that everyone has Zoom at this point, but I don't want to assume.
So on consensus, the board is you want to hold the hearings. You don't want to say no to hearings.
No.
So it's a matter of in-person and/or see if we can come up with an option for telephone or Zoom, something along those
Right.
lines. So I will work with Mary Beth on that.
Public comment.
Hello?
Hi, this is Ryan Lebrecht. Can I comment on the reevaluation?
You certainly can. You can comment on what we're talking about, and that is how the evaluations will be reviewed.
Understood.
Do you have something?
You're ready. Yeah. No, so the concern of traffic, just a suggestion, in general, reevaluation shouldn't mean necessarily that taxes are going to go up because of higher property values. The tax basis should, or the spending of the town, if it remains constant, should result in a lowering of the cost per thousand for taxes. And if that was prefaced at the time of the revaluation, that the tax value would be adjusted down to keep town spending the same, then people probably wouldn't be as concerned about their valuation skyrocketing, because if the valuations go up 10% and the taxation goes down per thousand 10%, or whatever the percentage is to offset it, and your tax bill stays the same, then people would be less concerned, and you wouldn't have as many people fighting the revaluation.
Okay. Well, thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
Thank you. Anything else, gentlemen?
I agree, we should try to do these meetings if people need them, you know, and we'll try to accommodate as best we can.
Yeah, so they're right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sold.
Very good.
Okay. Next item, discussion on reinstating elected town auditors. Mr. Bracci,
Yes, good evening.
good evening.
2 Balsam Way, Plaistow. I want to thank you, Darrell, for considering this a subject for the agenda items.
Not a problem.
Appreciate it. A little bit of background. Last year, on July 27th, Greg Talon motioned to do away with the elected town auditors. That motion was tabled until town council was asked about it. On August 10th, Greg stated that you and Francine had talked to Sumner Coleman. Sumner had declined to make a determination, and he said that you ought to go to DRA. You went to DRA, supposedly Francine said that she went to DRA and talked to Jamie Dow, our DRA representative. I have no idea if she's a lawyer or not. But Jamie said you can remove the position. The vote was taken, and it failed. And therefore, the town auditors elected town auditors was still in operation. Now comes January 11th of this year. Greg Talon again motions to appoint, I'm sorry, not again, but he motions to appoint an internal auditor position. I have not seen an RFP go out for that. Maybe it has. I don't know if we have hired an internal auditor. Have we hired an internal auditor? At what pay? Or where is the RFP? Okay. I don't think there was one, but.
Well, let's let the question be answered.
Okay. So there was a proposal for how we would handle an appointed local auditor. And it was a proposal that was given to the board and basically covered the issues that both Julian Kriska and Jay DeRoche had about having the ability to be able to look into things, per se. And we also added that we would want somebody in this role with a finance background, or hopefully even a CPA, and that they would report directly to the Board of Selectmen when they were appointed. So it was basically giving us the ability of having a qualified internal auditor if the Board of Selectmen deems necessary to be able to do that. So we have that. It's in your booklets. The whole proposal is there. And if you don't have a copy, I'd be happy to give you this one.
It's okay.
Okay? And then that proposal was approved 4-0-0 with Francine, myself, Julian, and Jay voting for it. So now that is in place, and we could put that in place if we deem necessary that it is that we need to have an internal auditor to do some additional work, kind of focused on what the Board of Selectmen would want them to do.
Okay, so you have proposed that we get an internal auditor in addition to the other hired auditors, Plodnick and whatever, Plodzik and so on, right? So we'd have the hired auditor and a appointed or a hired.
Appointed, right.
Appointed
Right.
from the board. Okay, that's where it stood. Now, we haven't hired that auditor yet, as far as I understand.
Correct. We have not.
So what happened on January 11th is Francine now says that I will have the town clerk remove the elected auditors from the ballot. That's how this board, the previous board, operated. She went in and said, remove them from the ballot. Now, could she have done that with another elected position, like the conflict of interest? It appears that she could have. Now, when the treasurer position was changed from an elected position, you didn't go and say, from the board, let's just do it. No, you went to the people and you said, do you want to have an elected auditor position or somebody who's qualified? And the people voted on it because it was an elected position, just like the elected town auditors was an elected position. Yet the board just went to the town clerk and said, remove it from the ballot. That's the background. I'd like to say a couple of the things that Bob Hamilton and I have done. For the 2019 encumbrances, we made an objection to how the scuba gear was being handled. For the people at home, scuba is self-contained breathing apparatus that the fire department uses. Every year, that $42,000 plus had been put on as a warrant article, and the people had approved it. In the last year of the required amount, it would be far more palatable for the people to not even see it. So that amount was encumbered rather than going on the ballot as a warrant article. We objected. In fact, we had to object twice, and that article, that encumbrance, was later taken off the warrant article, the encumbrances. A second example that Bob and I looked at, and we proved that the CIP committee was using their extra budget money as an encumbrance. There are only a few things that you can encumber funds from. They're in RSA 32.7, I believe. you have to have a legally binding contract, an amount of money that's due this year out of this budget to encumber it for next year. If you don't have a legally binding contract, you cannot encumber funds. And the CIP committee was just encumbering what was left over in their budget. We objected to that, and Francine said, let it go, it's going in as an encumbrance. So those are just two examples of what the internal auditor or elected auditor can do. If you look at just the encumbrances, when Plodzik and Sanderson comes in, they take a number that the town finance director has given them and say, this is what we are going to encumber. I don't think that Plodzik and Sanderson will go into how those numbers were derived. Yet Bob and I did, and we found discrepancies. And we brought them up to the board, and the board either went along with them or disregarded them. In most cases, the board disregarded them, and we were eliminated. And therefore, I would like you all to consider reinstating the position of the elected town auditor. It doesn't have to have an economic degree, although Bob Hamilton does have an economic degree. But I think the elected town auditor could do you a service in maybe even taking some pressure off you or some a workload off you. For instance, with the encumbrances, you could say to the elected town auditor, are these okay? We go do the work and we present it to you, and that's it. Or, is the payroll okay? Or, what happened to the encumbrances? That's what I'm saying. I think it's a position that's worthwhile. Other towns don't have it. There's nothing that says that you can't have it. But I think it would be something that would be very beneficial to the town. And I'd like you to reconsider.
Gentlemen, comments?
Yeah, I'd like to, I think the positions of the people wanted that, and I think we should stick with it, because I think they do a lot of good. I agree with Peter. I just think it's something good for the town, not anybody else, but.
I don't see a downside to it. You know, that's my issue. I mean, there may be something I'm missing and that I don't know about, but I don't see a downside. So it's not like it's costing millions of dollars. And,
Not much.
Right. So.
I don't think you got to hire a CPA for $200 a year.
So, I mean, but that's just my feeling. Greg?
I think Jay had his hand up first.
Oh, I'm sorry. Jay?
So when we go back to last August and when the original vote failed, I voted against it because.
You voted to
Keep
have
the
town
position.
council.
No, I voted to keep the elected auditor
Yes.
positions. And I did that because I thought at the time it was, I thought it was good to have a second set of eyes, and you were looking at things that the external auditors may not have been looking at in particular, so you were doing some other investigations into those things. So at the time, I didn't think it was a big deal, having the extra set of eyes, you know, having multiple eyes looking at it. When this proposal came up, it was to address some of my concerns about having a second set of eyes against it. And this wouldn't be a paid position. This would be an appointed, similar to a chair of a committee, like the Rec Commission or one of those other committees. We would just appoint that person to do their audit, rather than go through the elected process. Now, my understanding was there are some responsibilities of the elected auditor that they need to fill out certain forms that may have been duplicate to what the internal auditors or the external auditors and it was duplicating efforts, and because we have an external auditor, we don't necessarily need the elected auditors. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. We don't need the the elected town auditors to fill out the required forms. The required form is the MS-60.
Correct.
Plodzik and Sanderson fill out the MS-60. The law says that if you do not have a hired town auditor, the elected town auditors, the MS-60A specifically says who fills out the MS-60. And for several years, Greg, you even signed it, it says that the hired auditors will fill out the MS-60, not the elected elected auditors.
Go ahead.
Just point of clarification, the MS-60A does not state who is filling out the MS-60. The MS-60 is only a form that is filled out by the locally elected auditors. There's not the professional auditing firm, unless they are hired specifically to do the MS-60, does not fill out the MS-60.
Right.
The MS-60A says what option are you choosing to employ with the audit of the town, because an audit, whether it be an independent or a local auditor, is required by state law. So Plodzik and Sanderson did not do the MS-60.
That's right. But in each case, you signed the MS-60A that says that the elected auditors do not have to fill out the MS-60.
No, I did not.
You didn't? Okay.
The MS-60A says, which are you going to do? Do you have a local auditor or do you have a hired auditor? So I filled it out to say, to notify DRA that we have hired an outside auditing firm to conduct our audit.
Which says that the elected auditors do not have to fill out the MS-60.
I do not believe that it says that,
Okay.
no.
We were told that the DRA was censuring us because we weren't filling out the MS-60. That was a total lie. That came from Francine, and I was told that. We did not have to fill out the MS-60 because the MS-60A said that, and that came from the town. We did not violate any rules, Greg, because we weren't required to do that form. The MS-60A said we were not required, and it has been like that for years.
Okay. So let's just clarify a couple of things. The law, the RSA, basically says that if you have not hired a certified CPA firm, then you can elect, you are required to elect auditors, internal auditors. So because we have a CPA firm, there was not a need for internal auditors. But I still appreciate having a second set of eyes be able to look at things. But it doesn't have to be an elected position. It could be a person who is a retired CPA or retired financial type person, and they could actually help the board, not only with encumbrances, but other things as well, basically determined by the board. The board would determine that. So
do you really think that the board can do away with an elected position?
yes, because the DRA basically told us that no other town in New Hampshire has both elected auditors and a CPA firm.
Greg,
They told us that if you have a CPA firm, you don't need elected town auditors.
I didn't ask that question.
May I finish first? I had the discussion with Greg Colby, and to my understanding, from what he told me, is there are no other towns that have both. They either have one or the other. Small towns tend to have elected auditors, and larger towns, larger municipalities have a CPA firm. And if you have a CPA firm, the DRA is happy because they're gonna do a complete audit,
Greg,
and that's what they're looking to get.
I'm not arguing the point that we would be the only town, but I have shown you at least 2 examples of where Bob Hamilton and I have brought up situations that were, I'm going to say, illegal, and they weren't according to the RSA, and including, as we talked at the Budget Committee, Darrell, the RSA says that the encumbrances should be approved by the end of the fiscal year. It specifically says that. And what it means is you can't have a contract in 2021, but pay for it in 2020. Greg, you have argued with me that point, and it's in the minutes, that you believe that we can go past the first of the year to authorize encumbrances. I don't believe that. None of the other boards in the area believe that. In fact, I can show you the minutes of one board that had a meeting on December 31st to approve the encumbrances, because you have to approve the encumbrances prior to the end of the fiscal year, as the RSA states. It was not done this year.
Well, I think,
Can we have Greg answer that
oh,
question?
sure.
Was there a question there? I'm sorry.
I didn't.
I honestly, I don't feel that you need
I
to.
just made a statement
Yeah.
that that's my opinion, that the RSA says you have to have them done by the end of the fiscal year.
And as we've talked, I respectfully disagree with that.
Okay.
Because for every town that you say has a meeting beforehand, I'll give you a town that will have a meeting afterwards.
Just give me one town besides Plaistow.
Town of Lisbon.
Littleton?
Lisbon. I can go through minutes and.
But I think
Okay, but.
we're drifting away from.
We're drifting away.
What the whole thing was, is, I have no problem with a second set of eyes. I mean,
No, right now, we don't have a second set of eyes, is that right?
We have the ability to go off and appoint somebody if we can find somebody in the town
But we
who
haven't
wants to
done
do
that, and
this.
we haven't gone out looking for anybody yet. right?
Correct. We have a completely new board.
Right, so I think what we
So
do,
I think the board needs to discuss and determine if there's a need, put forth a request, get it out there in the town, and let people volunteer. And then, as the proposal, basically saying, give them a set of things, as Peter's mentioning, a set of responsibilities of what we want them to do for us, and have them report back to us, so that we can discuss those things.
yeah, I don't see the downside of having that second set of eyes.
I don't
And-
either.
And so I think, to what Greg's saying, we have to decide really what we want to do, right?
Yeah.
Do we want to go with what they went, or do we go back to the elected auditors and let the public decide?
well, I think you have the option. To me, if for some reason we got a CPA firm, what's the downside of having people
Exactly.
that are elected taking a look at it too? People that live here and know what's going on here and have a feeling for what's going on.
Right.
You know, I just, I don't see a downside for not having the elected position. I just don't see it. I think that if we decide to hire somebody per what you guys had there.
Appoint somebody.
Appoint somebody, I'm sorry. I think that's great.
And we could do one or two or as many as you want.
Right.
I mean, these,
Pete,
the
you want
things
the
that were
job?
in this proposal were specific issues.
retired.
That both Jay and Julian brought up, saying these are the things that we are concerned about. And so we put them inside of this proposal. So we have the ability to be able to appoint one or two or three or four or whatever. The big difference is they will report into the board. Okay? I don't think we're in disagreement.
No,
And I
it's
think the
just a
points
matter
that
of-
Peter's making are very, very, very valid. That, yeah, there are some things that we might want to have people look at. But it's important that they look at them based on the interpretation of the law, the state law that we are following, and work in a collegial relationship with the financial people within the town.
Okay. Everybody in agreement with that?
Yeah, I mean, I think the second set of eyes, there is no downside.
Right.
There is none.
Okay.
Thank you, Peter.
We'll act on that, Peter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, Pete. Have a good night.
Okay, next up, Comcast.
So back in February, the board had voted to, the Comcast franchise agreement was due to expire back in January. The board extended that out for 6 months. There has not been much activity with regards to moving that agreement forward. So I'm looking to our hired consultant from Donahue Tucker has asked that we extend it out another 6 months, which should give them plenty of time to get it finalized, hopefully by the end of the year. So,
Quick question on that, if I could. Is there any retroactive fees that happens if it's extended out?
well, we're not retroactive. We're currently, I believe, we're at 5%, which that's the maximum allowed with the franchise agreement.
Okay.
And we're getting the 5% now. We did through June 30th.
Okay, good.
Just last week, actually, a check for a little over $40,000.
Great.
So that doesn't, it's just a matter of getting that agreement finalized.
I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say kind of the same thing, so you kind of took the words out of my mouth. This is the same level that we are already in agreement. We're just extending this, and we expect a negotiation or something to have a finalized thing that we will vote on at the end of the 6 months.
Yes.
Okay,
Yep, that's the hope.
thank you.
Jay?
I know with the last contract, there was, we get the franchise fees, but there's also that, there was the $20,000
$20,000 per year for 5 years.
Is that something that's still on the table with this renewal?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And in my experience in the past with the franchise agreements, we've tried to add things in there, try to get discounts for seniors or veterans but that just gets incurred into the franchise fee. So I'm not saying our hands are tied on really what we can do, but anything we want them, that we want to add to this agreement, like adding broadband lines to a building or adding it to
Yeah.
any of our buildings, they'll do it, but it's going to go back into that subscriber fee.
Right.
So anything that we add will go to
All the
my
cable,
Comcast
all the cable
subscriber
users.
franchise fee will go up a certain amount, and it will pay for that infrastructure change or any types of discounts that we can negotiate within that contract.
That
So
is correct.
I just wanted to
John, you
put
and
that
I
out there.
need to
So.
be getting that old age discount.
So is there any discussion, are there any issues that, as Jay is recommending, that are on the table already for changes to our buildings?
I've worked and have asked Dean for possible things to ask Comcast for, but as our hands are really tied though, because the FCC and the like oversee all of that. Like what you had mentioned, complementary accounts into town buildings. Well, that comes out of the franchise
Right.
fee. So we see less money to give us, complementary accounts. So it's, it is very, very limited, very.
It's a narrow window.
It's a very narrow window to negotiate, and we're not negotiating from a place of power, if you will.
And it
It's-
hasn't been for as long, I mean, from the time cable got here in the late 70s, it's been a, it's
Take
been a.
what you can get.
Yeah, get what you get, exactly. So,
So, just asking, what's the downside of not renewing it? We lose the,
It's our cable.
we lose the franchise fees, would they still be here in town, or like? I'm just asking, I don't know. I never asked that question before, so,
And I honestly don't have an answer.
yeah.
I mean, I can ask our consultant what her opinion is.
Probably don't want to do that.
I don't want to play that deck.
Asking the question,
No ESPN for you.
Yeah.
You can't broadcast these meetings on cable TV anymore.
Okay. All right, Keep us informed.
All right. Well, I'll get that to you and get it signed.
Do we need to
Do we want to make the motion?
make the
or-
motion?
Yes?
Oh, sure.
I'll make a motion that we extend the current cable television franchise agreement granted to Comcast of Maine/New Hampshire Incorporated on January 31st, 2016, upon the same terms and conditions contained therein for a period from 12:01 a.m. on August 1st, 2021, until midnight on December 31st, 2021, or until such time as the franchise is renewed for longer term, whichever occurs sooner.
Second.
Jay seconded it. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 500. Okay. Let's talk about Rose Ave, Greg.
Rose Ave, if you remember, back in June, the town held an auction for the Rose Ave property. There was a successful bidder and to the tune of $285,000. We took a $10,000 deposit. Since that time, the successful bidder has declined to move forward with the purchase of the property, thus forfeiting his $10,000. I've been in contact with St. Jean Auctioneers, who reached out to the second highest bidder at $280,000, and that person has also declined. So we have the ability to put it back at the auction if that's what the board so desires. I've been given 2 dates, either September 16th or September 17th. Should give them a sufficient amount of time to put back on and do that. He said the real estate market is still moving forward, and he still feels that it is a worthwhile property that should draw, interest.
Any reason why the second person declined, or?
I am unsure
Sure, just
why the second
wasn't
did.
interested?
Yeah. I believe that the two highest bidders, from what I'm told, and Mr. Blinn can, correct me if I'm wrong, but was told that the two highest bidders, a lot of them dropped out at a lower level around 225, 230, and these two went back and forth until it got to that level. So that second person may feel that if it goes back out to auction, maybe it won't get that high, and maybe he'll get it lower. Just
Speculating.
speculating, so,
Just curious, thank you.
yep.
Did the high bidder, did he mention why he didn't want to move forward?
I think he was looking at it as an investment property and felt that with the work that he felt needed to be done and the like, that he wasn't going to be able to turn the property over.
Okay. Well, please send him a thank you note for the 10,000.
Christmas card.
Yeah. You need a motion from us? Or just to go ahead?
Consensus is
Okay.
fine.
Gentlemen?
So,
Make it so.
Okay.
yeah, okay.
You got it.
I will work with St. Jean's to get that set up on either the 16th or 17th.
Okay. Town manager's report. Or an update, I guess I should say.
I'll give you an update, how's
Okay.
that? Let's see, when I go back, and it seems like I've been out straight busy for the last couple of weeks since we met, and then when I go to write things down, it doesn't seem so bad, but I do know the T-Mobile agreement on the water tower should be finalized this week, so we'll be getting a retroactive check going back to April, but we'll have a new cell tower lease. Been plenty of water meetings and the like and moving forward in that area. There's letters that have gone out by certified mail to all of the fire suppression system customers all over the country, advising them of the needs to upgrade and the like. This past week, we did have a department head meeting attended by pretty much all department heads, so it was good roundtable discussion and the like was, very beneficial. As part of that department head meeting, I passed out budget docs for everybody, so the budget process is now officially
Oh, good.
in gear. I actually have 2 department budgets back already, but, so, and again, with the idea, I've asked them back from department heads in 2 to 3 weeks with the idea of presenting a final or a budget to the board sometime in September, for your consideration and to act on. And for those that may or may not know, just Main Street here at the railroad tracks will be closed tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock for the next 2 days. So because of the railroad tracks are doing some work there. Westville Road is being prepped for paving and the like, and the condenser here on the 3rd floor has been changed out. So
We have air conditioning up there.
there should be, yes. So other than that, again, I
Okay.
feel like I've been concentrating a little bit more on my finance director's duties.
Got it.
And I mean, you got the, your information, there was a July report that went out to the board, for July to date, went out to the budget committee so that they can, be starting to review that as well. So, and we are still looking at things very carefully, so.
Gentlemen, anything from different departments you want to talk about? Bill?
I attended recreation meeting last Wednesday. They got a few things going on, under the Elder Affairs. Looks like there's going to be a cookout in conjunction with the Lions Club for like an end of summer. So the registration should be open for that.
Where is it going to be held?
That'll be out at Park.
Oh, okay.
Also, under the Elder Affairs, they are opening up registration to book a trip October 19th. It'll be taking everyone up to the turkey train in Meredith, New Hampshire. They'll stop at a farm stand and on the way back. So registration's open for that.
Very good.
For the town. Summer rec ended last Friday, so they had another successful summer there. Recreation also has another drive-in movie that they're doing with the library as well. That's on August 20th. I did get an income summary report for revenue so far year to date. It's roughly right around 67,000 that recreation has brought in. And that all gets put into the general fund. And this week's concert is the Time Bandits on Wednesday night. Out at
The
Park.
what?
The Time Bandits.
Oh,
Is the
Time Bandits.
concert Wednesday night out at Park.
Very good. Anything else, gentlemen? Jay?
I just wanted to, I did attend the rec meeting also. That was good, Bill covered that. I also had a track meeting on last Thursday. The track meeting was to plan for Old Home Day. They had some games and information they were gonna pass out to residents. So we're still compiling all of that, and we're trying to come up with other events that we might be able to piggyback on, maybe a recreation event or a town concert where we can set up a table and hand stuff out to residents that has information about recycling. So I think that will be hopefully finalized in the next couple weeks. Some other events that they might show up at. They also have Waste Zero coming in, I think, early September, one of the September meetings we're going to have. And then they also, when they had JRM there, JRM's commercial representative was there, so they didn't really have a lot of information on Plaistow specifically, so they're trying to get the residential person that knows more about our trash specifically, so that they can get some more definitive answers on some of the contamination, stuff like that. So they're gonna try to get them in for next month's meeting, so.
Now, you
And then-
gentlemen go to the rec meetings. Overall, you're involved a lot more than I would ever be. So how is the turnout, let's say, at Park versus having the concert that used to be right out here?
Some of the concerts, I usually attend most of them. It's pretty, it is well attended.
Okay.
They are. You have some that they're parking all the way down using the lower parking lot and everything, depending on what the band is.
You find it more conducive out there than it was here?
There's pros and cons to both.
Okay.
I mean, it's nice, obviously, having it right here in the center of town, right? Everyone drives by, you see it. I think the parking's easier at Park, plus you have the playground. And I know Recreation, they are looking what to do next year, whether to bring it back here, keep it out at Park, or kind of go with the hybrid. I think a hybrid could be tough. Okay, 1 week is here, 1 week there.
Yeah.
It gets confusing. So I think they're trying, I think what would be a benefit for Recreation for the concerts is if everybody could kind of let them feedback. Where would you rather see it? Because it's for the townspeople.
Yeah.
Where would the majority really rather see it? I think that would drive it. But there's definitely pros and cons
Yeah.
to both.
Okay.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir. Sorry.
No problem. So I attended the last planning board meeting on August 4th, where we discussed the North Ave development. They're looking to put 14 houses, and it's right on the border of Haverhill. Matter of fact, it actually touches part of the
Out by
country
Lover's
club.
Lane?
Country Club. No.
On the other side?
On North Ave, before you get to the Haverhill line.
Oh, okay, I know what you're talking,
And there's
right.
a little shoot
Right.
out there, there's about 40 acres of land out there.
Yep.
So there was a lot of discussion because of the fact that they have to go through wetland, and they literally have to put crossings, put gravel down and go over this wetlands to have these large lots of 2.5 acres.
Right.
Was a requirement for low density. So we did a walkthrough, which was very interesting. So that was approved, and then we went through a lot of just the issues of dealing with this. So that's pretty much,
Was that a one-way in and one-way out?
yes. And it's right next to an abutter whose driveway runs parallel with the entrance coming in. So there's some issues between the abutter and the builder that we hope that they will be able to work out.
Okay.
People seem to be cordial. Things like if cars are pulling out of this new development, they would be shining their lights directly into his yard. And so the contractor agreed to put in a large line of trees behind his garage so that when they came around the corner, it would reduce that.
Okay.
There's an issue about whether or not the line that has been assessed is correct. So the abutter got his survey done, and it doesn't agree with what the contractor's assessment is, or what their
Survey is.
survey is. And unfortunately, we have to basically go by the seal from what we were presented, and we approved it. And if that comes to court, then they'll have to work out some type of an agreement with that. We've had a number of continuances. We're getting very, very busy. We were hoping to be able to do a lot of workshops. We have one Wednesday for the meeting to discuss the forms coming in. And then we were hoping to have workshops so we go through some of the bylaws and the warrants and provisions. We're looking that we're going to have a lot of work to do. There's surprisingly a lot of different developments. Sometimes they're small and sometimes they're
thought we had
fairly good
run out.
size. No, I don't know where they're finding the land to do this, but they're getting really, really creative in the ways to put the land together to be able to make an assessment and have lots and have it comply with all the rules. One interesting thing that I wanted to bring out for John, because he's on the zoning board, Karen Robinson made a point that the union leader had a report about going to the state if you want to avoid going to the town zoning board. So you go to the state, and the state is going to actually hear similar to a zoning board versus having to go to the local zoning board.
Is that right?
Yeah, which I thought was weird. Why are they getting in that business? I don't understand. So, and I also had a week vacation up in Farmington, with the grandkids, my two kids, their families, and so it was nice to have some nice weather and a nice time off.
Nice, it
Thank
was
you.
nice weather, too,
was.
so you lucked out.
I did.
Okay. One thing I did want to mention, I talked to the building department, and I want the public to know, is that there's a lot of work going on that no permits are being taken out. And we all have to be cognizant of that. And if we see it, then we have to mention it, because we have been inundated with small stuff that we're finding, and some of it not so small, some of it's additions that they're not pulling a permit. There's a lot of electrical and plumbing work that's being done with no permits. So please, if you're having work done for your own sake, pull a permit, because if you pull the permit and we inspect it as a town, then the liability on that particular amount of work comes to us that it's done right. If you don't, and something happens, it's on you. So please pull the appropriate permits whenever you're doing work. And then the last thing I have is, there'll be a 9/11 event, and I'm telling you now because we'll have another meeting, but just to keep it in mind, at 9 a.m. at the town hall to commemorate 20 years of 9/11.
It's hard to believe, huh? 20 years?
Yeah, I know, isn't it? Horrible. Anything else before, do we need to go into executive tonight?
I don't believe so.
I think we're good. If not, I'm going to close the meeting at 7:47.
Good night.
Thank you, everybody.